The man was helping to manoeuvre a heavy steel pipe into position when the accident happened. An emergency call brought police to the scene, where they found the man semi-conscious and in shock.
Lowering a large pipe into position. Apparently the pipe has swung on the chain and has crushed him up against the inside concrete wall of the tunnel.
Paramedics were flown in by the rescue helicopter, and they were quick to stem the flow of blood and administer pain-killing drugs. The crushing impact of the pipe had stripped the flesh from the man's lower left leg, but his considerable weight forced rescuers to call for reinforcements before attempting to lift him out. After more than an hour, the 34-year-old man from Landillo in Sydney's west was hoisted clear of the tunnel.
The paramedics had to attend to his injuries first. He had quite a severe leg wound, and they've attended to him, splintered his leg, and then we've lifted him out on a Stokes litter.
He was loaded onto the rescue helicopter and flown to the John Hunter Hospital, where he remains in a stable condition. It's likely the incident will become the subject of a Department of Industrial Relations and Employment investigation. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
The Great Britain side gave the Kangaroos a scare in the Test series late last year, second rower Paul Dixon flattening a few Aussie reputations. The Gold Coast is desperate for a win, lying third from the bottom of the table. In their last match, they were thrashed by Illawarra, and kingpin Wally Lewis is definitely out with a fractured cheek. Gold Coast selectors had little option but to rush new boy Dixon straight into first grade.
Paul Dixon I played with at Canterbury a few years back, and he's since forced his way into the Great Britain Test side, and he's a very good player, so no doubt they'll be looking to get plenty of value from him.
After a week's break, the Knights are back into the swing of things, raising funds for the club at the Steelworks Golf Course. With Sunday's clash firmly on their minds, players like Mark Glanville face a two-pronged attack, not only from the Seagulls but also from a reserve-grade side topped with first-grade quality. Players like Fulmer, Mark Sargent, Tony Butterfield and David Thorne will be gunning for the number one side.
That's part of the goal of reserve grade, to keep them honest and to keep 16 or so players putting pressure on the top 13 every week.
Glanville, right through. Good ball.
Friends, and the announcement, Mark Glanville, our man of the series.
Straightening up is Boyd. Boyd gives it on to Glanville. Glanville scores.
Garlic out to corner, upended by Glanville, a heavy tap.
Runs into traffic. Then he gets it to Glanville. Glanville goes straight for the line. Oh.
The Knights in possession. Glanville breaks in the scrum, but he goes himself. He reaches out and he scores. Mark Glanville, the Newcastle Rock.
Environfest will be held at Spears Point Park on the 1st of September. Its theme will be the 3 Rs: reduce, reuse and recycle.
What we're aiming to do is put together about 81 different exhibitors and some of the top names in environmental programming, and those people will come together and in the Spears Point Park and form a Hunter Environfest.
People under the age of 25 living within the Hunter region are invited to enter a competition. Its aim is to find a commercially viable solution to the mounting problems of waste disposal. As well as cash prizes for the best ideas, more than $100,000 will be used to implement the winning entry. Organisers hope that young people might hold the key to a brighter environmental future.
Well, we've wrecked the planet, I reckon, and the young people are coming on and they know what they want to have for their future. Hopefully they're going to come up with the answers. The unemployment's with the young people, and the young people will be able to see this as a chance to put into practice some of the ideas that they have and make a business out of it.
Highway Patrol Police in northern New South Wales from Hornsby to the Queensland border introduced the Lights On campaign on a trial basis last year. They were following a strategy adopted by several countries which had significantly lowered the rate of road smashes. It's a new idea in this part of the world and it's taking time to sink in with motorists. Dr. Sally Redman of Newcastle University is anxious to compile meaningful statistics on the effect of the Lights On program. Overseas research has already made significant findings.
There's been a number of studies done both in America and in Scandinavian countries, and it seems strongly to suggest that the use of daytime running lights decreases accident rates. I think it increases the visibility of cars and therefore there's fewer crashes and importantly there's fewer pedestrian injuries.
Driving conditions in the land of the midnight sun are obviously very different to Australia's relatively constant daylight hours, and that's where the university's research could prove invaluable. But so far, drivers have shown little interest.
At the moment, the rates of use of daytime running lights is quite low, so yeah, we'd be wishing to encourage people to use their headlights during the daytime.
The police force doesn't need convincing. They're progressively switching their patrol cars over to daytime running lights as an example to other drivers. Next week they'll start another campaign to encourage motorists to follow suit. The campaign includes distribution of colourful bumper stickers pressing home the Lights On message, a message Newcastle University hopes to back up with hard evidence. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
Pam Allen believes little has been done by the present government to reduce the mounting waste stream. To encourage people to recycle, the opposition has promised to build 3 materials recovery facilities, including one in Newcastle, at a cost of $70 million.
Local councils would have to be working with the state government to set up a collection at a householder's front doorstep, basically, so that a truck would pull up, there'd be a container with all these materials, steel, glass, papers, plastics, bottles, which can be recycled if there's a will, taken away to another centre, sorted there, not by the householder at home, and then eventually put into a recycling process.
According to Ms Allen, incineration and landfill sites are not the answer to reducing the state's garbage problems. Instead, by recycling, she believes the amount of garbage can be cut dramatically.
By 1996, we want to reduce the amount of waste that is produced by 25%, but in 10 years, we want to reduce it by 50%. Now, that's a very bold goal. However, we think it's got to be done.
Ms Allen also joined a growing list of people who today hit out at the State Development Minister John Hannaford for this announcement yesterday.
We've got a number of projects on the drawing board that want to come to Newcastle. They are concerned about Newcastle Council's preparedness to deal with those projects. In order to allay industry's concerns, we've now decided to bring together industry and government departments to fund an air quality study for Newcastle in the hope that Newcastle Council will now lift its total ban and deal with particular projects on their merits.
According to Newcastle Council, the ban on industrial development was imposed 3 years ago only because of a promise by the state government that the air quality study would be done immediately. It has never been done. Ms Allen described Mr Hannaford's announcement as desperate.
I think that's desperation politics in the lead up to the state election. We've had a similar announcement by the Minister for Environment in Sydney. It's no good promising 2.5 weeks before an election that you're going to fix air problems in Newcastle, where not only has John Hannaford, but the Minister for Environment has also known about those problems for many years.
Can we use your office for a sec? As a yeah.
Called the City Fathers Breakfast, the get-together was attended by 18 parliamentarians and officials as a lead-up to the Red Shield appeal. The breakfast was held at the Wickham Men's Hostel, which will be one of the beneficiaries of the appeal's $300,000 target for this region. While the hostel's earthquake-scarred exterior is being patched up with insurance money, the activities inside of housing, feeding and counselling 22 men every night takes enormous funds. The food bill alone for the past 9 months has been $14,500. The hostel's manager, Captain Max Hale, says the demand for its services is greater than ever.
We're finding at the moment that we have to send the fellas elsewhere because we just don't have enough room here in this hostel to cater for the numbers that are approaching us for accommodation.
Campaigning at Hamilton South Public School today was a piece of cake for Bob Carr. The Greiner government's unpopular education policies have proved easy pickings for Labor, and after visiting a composite class spanning 3 age groups, the opposition leader vowed to return 2,500 teachers to the school system and reduce composite classes.
By employing more teachers, we're going to reduce class sizes, reduce composite classes. That's going to improve not only the learning conditions of kids, but the working conditions of teachers. Let's go for quality in our school system. It's a quality that you can't get, that you can't guarantee when you've got a composite class that's got over 30 kids in it, as we saw in the first classroom we visited.
After holding court in kindergarten, Mr Carr promised to hold an inquiry into the status of teachers in the wake of a report released yesterday suggesting teacher morale is at rock bottom. The William IV was restored in time for the bicentenary with the help of a $300,000 loan. The debt must be repaid by the end of this year, and until recently more than $100,000 was needed. Fundraising efforts have so far collected about $65,000. In a public relations coup today, the Friends of William IV went a step further towards raising the outstanding money, organising Hazel Hawke to speak at a glittering fundraising luncheon aboard the South Stain. There were fashions from local designer Jean Bass, a feathered creation catching the eye of the First Lady, a model later proving feathers are not always functional. Also in the show, some spectacular jewellery crafted by Tony White, bound for New York's Fifth Avenue. Later, Mrs Hawke took to the water for a cruise on the William IV, impressed by its historical and community value.
It's an important project. And for Newcastle, it's very representative because it does remind us of the history of Newcastle in a sense, the engineering and the heavy industry that's so important still to the town.
Thieves used a house brick to smash the front door of the Country Road clothing store on Perkins Street at about 3 a.m. They ignored women's fashions on the ground floor, going straight to the men's section upstairs, where they collected dozens of garments, including hooded sweat tops, jackets and trousers of a total value exceeding $10,000. All bear the distinctive Country Road label, which manager Charlotte Ammon says is a popular target.
Unfortunately, it's a national problem, and we're working very closely with the state and local police.
Police say the thieves' vehicle was seen by a passerby. They're looking for a dark blue sedan with registration numbers 427. In the meantime, the store holds little hope of getting the clothing back.
We believe it's a gang that come up, and especially from Sydney, that are working with the stores around Newcastle and taking them back and selling them there.
So in fact they may have a buy even before they commit the robbery?
Yeah, I think they've got orders before they even rob.
The idea has been in the pipeline for more than a decade. Araring Power Station provides a year-round river of white water pumped from Lake Macquarie to cool its turbines. It's a torrent that rides a concrete culvert, but with an imaginative plan and funding, it could draw competitors and spectators from around the world.
We can see the Olympic Games when Sydney gets them, because there's nowhere in Australia that can handle the whitewater slalom, but this spot, about this canoe course built on this site.
George Clark has been literally paddling his own canoe on the idea for years. A horseshoe-shaped canal would be dug, branching off the outfall channel. A floodgate controlling the flow and the placement of artificial obstacles will determine the difficulty of the course for competitors. Spectators would be given a bird's-eye view of the downhill whitewater dash. The Lake Council and the Department of Sport and Recreation are behind the idea, but it still has to be agreed to by the Olympic Committee.
Well, the final green light obviously is the government. Finance is the major situation there, and I understand presently they're talking about $6 to $7 million for this particular course to go in. But obviously if Sydney get the Games, there will be funds available to build the facilities, and whitewater canoeing would be one of those events.
The development of the canoe course would bring a boom in accommodation and sports facilities around the Myuna Bay Recreation Centre.
We plan to build the building large enough to be able to use it for basketball and netball and indoor soccer and all the indoor sports that we're short of facilities on this side of the lake for.
And the problem is rampant in the Hunter as well. Mayfield Highway Patrol officers say abandoned, unregistered vehicles have become a common sight on the streets of Newcastle.
Since December, we've noticed a big increase with the abandoning vehicles, unregistered vehicles, and the stripping of vehicles out on the public streets in the Mayfield Patrol.
Owners have 7 days to remove their cars from the street or face an $81 fine. Many continue to drive their cars unregistered. It's taken Mayfield Police just 3 weeks to collect over 30 sets of invalid licence plates.
We have stopped those vehicles, found that the registration has expired, and we issue the drivers with infringement notices for the offences, and we remove the plates off the vehicles.
And the excuse is usually the same. People just can't afford to legally keep their cars on the road.
Police say the bus was heading north along Lemon Tree Passage Road when an oncoming car veered into its path, ramming the bus and pushing it onto the edge of the road. The 50 young passengers on board were badly shocked, but incredibly were physically unharmed. The driver of the car, a 30-year-old woman from Williamtown, was trapped for an hour. Rescue crews used the jaws of life to free her. She was taken to John Hunter Hospital in a serious condition with multiple fractures and head injuries. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
In these modern times of loudspeakers and big decibel amplifiers, you'd think the town crier was a thing of the past. But to give a bit of pomp to circumstances like the Harbour Regatta, some people think there's a crying need for such a service. Newcastle City Council will soon be advertising for those interested to give a holler, and the Lord Mayor, John McNaughton, is vocal about the responsibilities attached to the position.
Seems a bit of a giggle actually, but it's not that way. It's a matter of getting a message through to the community and a very, very good vehicle for doing it.
The idea came about when a Mr John Kerr from the Central Coast wrote to Newcastle City Council offering his services. But it seems there's no shortage of Novocastrians who are also willing to voice their desire to be our own town crier. But what skills do prospective town criers need, apart from a big mouth?
They have to be very good at acting.
Hear ye, fair citizens of Newcastle.
They must have very good voice production.
On this, the 23rd day of the 1991st year of our Lord.
They must be intelligent people who can really get a message across.
I wish to proclaim my interest in obtaining honourable position of town crier.
You need a very, very considerable skill.
But if you're thinking of lending your larynx to further the glory of Newcastle, don't give up your day job.
Oh, I think it's a matter of arranging that at the time, and it's not a permanent salaried position. It's something that's paid for as and when required.
Obtaining the honourable position of town crier.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
I wish to proclaim my interest in obtaining the